Hello, everybody. I'm Michael Smith. Welcome to the Lowdown. And today, joining me, Robert Palmer, our head of financial planning. Robert, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Here to talk about what I love, legislation.
Oh, absolutely. Well, we're here to talk about the one big, beautiful bill. You, of all people, are probably the few that's probably read the most of it.
Yeah.
Good part. I don't know how far you're in on that. I guarantee you've read more than most of Congress, so that's a good thing.
That's probably right. Yeah, that's probably right.
But it's been out for a few months here. I think we've seen everybody's written a paper about it. We've getting a lot of opinions about it. So I thought it'd be good to have you on a couple months afterwards, after everyone's had time to really digest what's really in it, who does it actually help. And I thought maybe you could just kind of kick it off and tell me some tidbits on it, and then maybe kind of your top three for high net worth individuals and maybe business owners.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say, generally speaking, there are some good things in this. For example, it kept the larger tax brackets that were imposed originally by the TCJA. That kind of benefits most people because they get more money in their pocket. And they allowed for some really cool non-itemized deductions that everyday people can take, even if they're taking the standard deduction.
Okay.
And what I think is kind of missed in the text, or missed in terms of everyday tax filing or just savings in general, is that this provides a lot of tools. But you have to know what the tools are and how to use them.
Good point.
And that's kind of what it comes down to. So,
Okay.
like, for example, 529s are very popular for saving for education and paying
Sure.
for it tax-free. Now it can be used for trades and crafts and certifications and all sorts of other things to help the employment force and fill other occupations beyond just undergraduate school, including K through 12, for example. It can pay some for that as well.
Now, let me ask you this. A big one that Trump talked about was tax on tips. Is that included in what you're discussing here?
There is some language around that. If you fall within a certain income threshold, you are able to reduce your reportable income by a certain amount. So you do, in fact, get some tax-free tip money if you fall within that category. But I think what's actually more applicable, particularly to the voting block, or the largest voting block,
Sure.
would be seniors. If they fall within a certain income range, they also get an additional $6,000 deduction on top of their standard deduction, which can help toward affording things like
that's
retirement
big.
savings. Yeah, they couldn't get the Social Security aspect completely written off, so the $6,000 deduction was the standard.
It's a buffer.
That's right. That's exactly right. But you wanted to know more about ultra high net worth.
Sure.
Do you think I should talk a little bit more about like business owners in particular?
Yeah, why don't we start with business owners, and then maybe I guess if there's anything in addition to high net worth individuals that's in there. I mean, from my opinion, it seems like the phase outs just included a lot of people, but you know more than I do, so please go ahead and elaborate on that.
Yeah, I'll start more broadly with just what impacts high net worth individuals, and then transition to business, because business can get a little complicated.
Sure.
So I think probably the biggest change that we saw was the estate tax exemption, right?
Okay.
That went from 13.99 to 15 million per person. So married couples can now protect up to $30 million. That's a very important aspect of this legislation, because at the end of this year, it was scheduled to be cut in half.
Yes.
So it was going to go from 13.99 to literally 7 million at that point. So this is now making 15 million permanent, and it's going to scale for inflation after 26, which is a very big deal. Now, that doesn't mean that people with large estates can just wait and not do any estate planning, because odds are the rate at which that exemption grows and the rate at which your estate grows is going to be different. You're
Sure.
probably going to grow more wealth than what the exemption is going to exceed at. So you need to come up with some pretty clever estate freezing strategies, maybe using trusts or business entities and discounts and cool things like that in order to accommodate it.
Well, you talked about that being permanent. I remember over the last few years, we've been warning about this getting cut in half.
Yep.
I know a lot of people have made provisions and done some estate tax planning to, hopefully put some things to mitigate that. But when you say permanent, I mean, obviously they can legislate that away, but I mean, it does cement it in for a while, probably a good 4 or 5 years, if not hopefully longer.
That's a really good qualifier, actually, because to your point, even though it's permanent, the legislation can always change with the adoption of new legislation.
Exactly, yeah.
And so I think the old adage that Congress doesn't really do much, the sunset or the cut in half was going to be automatic. So the fact
Yeah.
that the reduction is not going to be automatic anymore means that even if it does change in the future, you don't have to worry about a specific date passing and all of a sudden everything changes.
Well, you got to think that was bipartisan, because most of Congress on both sides of the aisle are well amongst or past the 7 million that it was going to come down to. So they were probably all thinking, you know what, we need to do something about this. And then there's no future sunset provision. So it's just, okay, that's a really good thing.
Yes.
That was a bad, I don't know how that got in there, but that was really bad to begin with.
Yeah, I think the idea was that they need tax revenue, but they're able to defer collecting it for a certain amount of time, and that's where the
And they
sunset
timed
came
it when
from.
baby boomers were now,
Right.
again, okay, all right.
And to be fair, there are a lot of sunset provisions in this act. There are a lot of threshold exemptions, like with when there's no tax on tips and things like that. That all sunsets after 2028. So there are several provisions in the bill where after 2028 they go away. It's important to know what those are, and you could probably do a quick look in AI. It'll tell you, the whole litany of things that are going to sunset in 28.
Well, let's get back to business owners. So I'm not, pretending I'm a business owner, which I am, but what's going to get me excited about this? What's really in there for me?
So business owners had a lot of cool things change for them. What I will say is, first, what has been made permanent that I think is a big deal, and that's the qualified business write-off or income.
Okay.
So that's QBI. QBI has been a really great boon for small businesses, not just for hiring, but also making reinvestment into the businesses, and that write-off is there to stay. So that has now been made permanent unless it's repealed, to your point, with new legislation. I would also say expensing has now become permanent as well. So if you recall, there was Section 179 where people were able to write off large business expenses all within 1 year instead of having to amortize it. That is still in place.
Okay.
And the nice part about that is 179 is largely accepted by every single state, whereas bonus depreciation under 168 is not always accepted, or it varies from state to state. That's what I should really say. 179 gives you predictability, and in high income years for business owners, they can realize a capital asset purchase and write the whole thing off if they wanted to.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I would say another big thing that has changed for business owners is probably in connection with C Corps. So C Corps for a long time benefited under a tax code called 1202, which is qualified small business stock. That meant that if the C Corp qualified as a certain business, they were able to get up to a $10 million exclusion on capital gains at the sale of the business.
It's nice.
Very nice. You had to hold the business for 5 years. The issuance of the stock had to take place prior to $50 million in assets in terms of the value of the company. So there's a whole bunch of qualifiers that go into it, and that's not an exhaustive list. But the changes that have happened to that have been pretty great for C Corp owners. So C Corp owners, if you're worried about being double taxed, this is actually a big plus for you, which is that 5-year wait period has become a staggered wait period.
Okay.
So for example, you might get 50% of the exclusion after 3 years, 75% after 4, 100% after 5. Yeah. Additionally, the exclusion has increased by 50%. So it went from 10 million to 15 million.
That's a big jump.
That's a big jump. And if you're very clever with your estate planning, circling back to that, you can have family members come in and own some qualified small business stock. And that can be QSBS stacking. So now all of a sudden it's not just 15 million. It's 15 million for this, for that, for this, that, your kids, your wife, your husband, whatever it may be. So there's very clever things you can do to stack it, avoid the taxation, have more money readily available for reinvestment.
Well, it seems like so far what you've said, I mean, this is a very pro-business bill, right? I mean, and at the end of the day, if we're trying to, get the economy to grow, we need business to be in a good place to continue to attract and innovate and grow the economy.
Well, actually, on the topic of innovation, one of the big deductions that people are going to see as permanent is when it comes to research and development.
Yes.
So that also can be written off in a more accelerated fashion to help offset costs. And again, free up more money for more research and more development in future years.
I mean, look what we're seeing right now with AI. You got everything with space exploration, defense, so many things are happening. It's probably one of the largest innovative cycles we've seen in our entire history. So definitely good timing for that.
For sure. I would say coupling with this bill has also been some deregulation in the energy space and in land. And by that I mean they actually opened up a ton of acreage of land in the United States that's available for purchase, which can be used for energy production and can be used for small businesses or large businesses to continue to expand and develop into new areas, creating new communities. It's a very exciting time.
Well, Robert, lastly here, is there anything kind of outside of the, other big, beautiful bill that's opened up for just the average everyday person?
Yeah, there was an executive order signed by Trump relatively recently allowing for alternative assets to be purchased in 401ks, which is a really big deal.
It is.
Because it's opened up a huge capital pool to help fund this sector of investments. And I think that there are pros and cons. That's what I should say.
Yes, there is.
You have to be aware of the risks and you have to understand it. I think that drives home the need of having a professional be able to run some due diligence on these options. But on the flip side, if you do your due diligence and you get good advice, this could lead to outsized returns inside the 401k, which of course is tax advantaged. So you could have large gains, sell out of the position and not have to realize any taxes until way down the road when you're taking distributions. So I think anything we can do to improve retirement savings and investing for everyday people, it's going to be a benefit for the average person.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, it's been one area that we talk at Avidian all the time about adding non-correlated assets to help kind of buffer the zigs and zags of the market. And in the 401k, unfortunately, we just not had that option. So hopefully this opens up to good options. I think to your point, make sure you do the due diligence, look through to the fees and the different layers. That's one thing I'll add. But other than that, I think, a lot of good stuff is happening. Pro-business, pro-growth. These are the things we need in this country. But I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you very much.
Oh, it's my pleasure. There's a lot to learn out there and a lot of exciting changes that have happened, so don't be afraid to reach out if you need to learn more.